An attorney who has been investigating the U.S. president's son has now been appointed as a special counsel. Senior prosecutor David Weiss requested the change this week. Attorney General Merrick Garland made the announcement earlier today.
Upon considering his request, as well as the extraordinary circumstances relating to this matter, I have concluded that it is in the public interest to appoint him as special counsel.
CBC's Chris Reyes has been following this story from New York, and she tells us more about the ongoing investigation.
David Weiss, the U.S. attorney from Delaware, has been investigating Hunter Biden, President Joe Biden's son, for years now, as far back as the Trump presidency, over a grab bag of issues, from his possible tax violations to Hunter Biden's alleged use of his father's influence in his business dealings, including with other countries, while his father was vice president, into his purchase of a gun, into revelations from a recovered laptop that had explicit images and emails relating to Hunter Biden. Now, that investigation was paused for several months leading up to the 2020 vote, but it was later picked up again and confirmed by Hunter Biden himself after Biden was elected president. And just as recently as last July, Hunter Biden was supposed to plead not guilty to tax charges in a plea deal that fell through. And it goes without saying that the Republicans have really focused on Hunter Biden and the drama that has surrounded him. And Trump supporters especially have really used him as an example of what they call the so-called two-tiered justice system, the difference between how the Biden family is being treated and the way the Trump is being treated by the Department of Justice. So it's really quite significant that the Attorney General would now elevate Wise's position into special counsel, putting the weight of the DOJ into the Hunter Biden investigation. Have a listen to what AG Merrick Garland had to say about what his decision means.
This appointment confirms my commitment to provide Mr. Weiss all the resources he requests. It also reaffirms that Mr. Weiss has the authority he needs to conduct a thorough investigation and to continue to take the steps he deems appropriate independently, based only on the facts and the law.
Garland added that Wise asked him for this special counsel position, and Garland granted the request because he believed that this was in the public's interest. Now, this will quell some of the criticisms from the Republicans who have said in the past that the DOJ was preventing Wise from becoming a special counsel, a claim that they've denied. It also adds an extra layer of intensity in what is already one of the most polarizing times in American politics ahead of the next presidential vote. To remember, the special counsel appointed by the DOJ to look into some of Trump's issues, that led to 2 federal indictments. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
For more, I'm joined by Joseph Marino. He is a former U.S. federal prosecutor joining us from Washington. Thank you so much for your time today. Given there was this plea deal between Hunter was this announcement today to you?
Hey, Sarah, good to be with you. Well, I would say it's shocking because this sort of thing rarely happens here. But at the same time, it's not surprising because, like you pointed out, the plea deal that was supposed to go through smoothly a few weeks ago basically blew up in front of the judge. And it made clear that both sides were not seeing eye to eye on where they thought this case was going. And so now you have this sort of natural next step is that both sides retreat to their corners, they get ready for a battle, and now it looks like with the elevation of David Weiss as a special counsel, he's going to be prepared to bring charges if the two cannot get back on the drawing board and get basically that deal back on track.
There'll be people who are watching who maybe had lost track of exactly what this case is. It's really a grab bag of things that Hunter Biden has been investigated for, using his father's influence being one, tax evasion being another. But what can you tell us about what is at the heart of this?
And Sarah, based on what we know, of course, right, because we're kind of on the outside looking in, it's primarily a tax case. It's primarily a case whereby allegations are that Hunter Biden made all kinds of money from all kinds of sources outside the United States and then failed to declare them on his tax returns and failed to pay taxes on them. That's the crux of the case. Now, yes, as your correspondent pointed out, there's a gun issue, there's possible drug issues, there's something called the Foreign Agent Registration Act, which goes to whether Hunter Biden declared that he was acting on behalf of foreign companies or foreign governments. But at the end of the day, it's, did he declare this money, and should he have paid more tax than he did?
When that plea deal was introduced, Republicans very critical of it. It did fall apart. What were their critiques? What were their issues that they had with the deal?
Well, Sarah, what it sounds like ultimately is that both parties went before a federal judge in Wilmington, Delaware. The government said, we are continuing to investigate Hunter Biden. The defense said, well, actually, this deal ends the investigation and gives him full immunity. And the judge looked at both sides and said, well, which is it? If the investigation is ongoing, what are we doing here? Why is that? Usually these things happen at the end of an investigation, right? But the investigation ends, both parties come to an agreement, and then a deal is cut before a judge. So I think when that happened, then it became really clear that the government had it in mind they were going forward and they could continue to investigate and bring possible new charges against Hunter Biden, whereas Biden's defense counsel said, no, 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 we're pleading guilty and that's the end of it. And so that was the critical mismatch of things here.
How do you think, or do you think at all, that the accusations of a two-tiered judicial system here, the way Trump is not being treated necessarily, but what is happening with the former president versus what was perceived to be happening with the current president's son, did that play into this at all?
I mean, from a technical perspective, right, purely legally, one should have nothing to do with the other, okay? The reality is, though, there's a political atmosphere here in the U.S. right now that a lot of people do feel that the Justice Department is coming down really tough on Trump and really light on a member of the Biden family. That might be true, that might be false, but that perception exists within some part of the population here. So I do think, on some level, the appointment of David Weiss as a special counsel is at least some nod toward the political reality that, look, this is not just a sort of, puff case against Hunter Biden. It is serious. We are taking it for real. And the appointment of David Weiss as now a special counsel gives him even more freedom, more power to bring the charges that he believes are necessary here, not because the Attorney General or the President are telling him what to do.
Just quickly, what do you expect Weiss might do in the coming weeks?
Well, I think there's two possibilities here, right? One is that we'll hear the parties are back in court because the plea deal is back on the table. That's one possibility. The other possibility is we'll see charges against Hunter Biden. Remember, he's not been indicted yet. There's no official charges pending against him. So it's either going to be one or the other. If it's an indictment, that means a trial is likely.